Shadowi. Let's not forget one thing. 35% of these people, they can't read. Basically, they don't speak French.
Makiadi, can you unmute the screen?
They don't give a fuck.
Huh?
Can you just remove the shared screen?
Oh,
I don't think we need it anymore.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting.
We'll see, Voz, we'll see. But I'm very confident in the grid of the large French company, especially Owano in Niger. They are very, very evil. And they have absolutely no scruple or no moral. And they are going to do whatever they want. And they are absolutely not going to care about the civilian population. And if there is no French military to protect them, they are just going to hire mercenaries, and that's all. And it's going to be even worse for the civilian population.
Guess who can get mercenaries for free? Niger. Guess who's this mercenary? Wagner. Why? Because Russia wants to see France crying, begging. Russia doesn't need the gold in Mali or Niger, wherever they have. They just want to see France suffer.
But hey, guys, I ran into an important, into an interesting map here. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Let me show you here. I actually hadn't thought about it until now, but I don't know whether you guys can see screen one. So that is how Libya is divided right now. So the green is the government supported by Turkey and the UN and whatever, and then this area is basically this area is controlled from Benghazi. Is one led by Haftar, and then the rest is basically tribal land. But I found that map quite interesting because I was just wondering to myself right now. I was like, wait a minute, how again is Libya divided right now? But yeah, that's the way it is.
And then so going back to the Tuareg thing and the drug trafficking and stuff because the earlier map you showed what we're seeing here, everything we see of Niger, that was part of Tuareg inhabited lands, and over half of what we're seeing on the map here is also Tuareg mostly. The Kurdistan analogy I think is a very good one, because you have no country around there is going to be wanting to allow independent Tuaregistan or whatever you want to call that, right? They're not going to have any. And the autonomy question though for the Sahel or any of these countries here, they have to find a way to kind of unless they can actually find a way to give some sort of mutually agreed upon autonomy among themselves, that they will agree collectively with the Tuaregs, and that the Tuaregs have their representatives to agree on. But then the Tuareg are not one cohesive unit. They're kind of pretty scattered, so you can't really negotiate.
Even on this map, I'm pretty sure that the 12 men and other militia are fighting each other.
Say that again?
Yeah. I'm sure that even on this map, the 12 men and the other militias, are fighting each other.
Yeah. And actually, the other interesting thing I noticed about this map now when I look at it is how both governments are being helped. So I know the Haftar government is getting a lot of assistance from Egypt, and I'm assuming the government in Tripoli is getting a whole lot of assistance coming from Tunisia. It seems like that, but I haven't looked into it like that. But this right here, this is the beginning of all the disruption, the madness in the Sahel. This country.
Oh, yes, that I agree with you. That's what it's important for Algeria to have a strong army to avoid this kind of problem in this border.
So what I have to say is that this is like based on what I said here, it's gonna be really really difficult whoever trying to be like united in all of Africa, because I know I'm a Pan African number one. I definitely hoping that Africa can unite as one nation, because that's, I believe, we're able to use African resources in the right way, and plus Africa we're able to have better way to defend themselves and better way to represent around the world. But whoever's gonna be a leader, definitely it's not gonna be just a leader who just go with whatever people says. You have to be a really, really strong leader. Either sometimes they're probably gonna call him a dictator. Because if you think about all this crazy stuff, just the toilet itself, that's a lot of problems. You know, it's somebody who have to willing to like really get their hands dirty. Based on what I said.
You know,
I'm
one of
going
the
to give you an
problems.
advice from a European guy. Don't believe a transnational organization is a solution for anything. Most of the case, it's a mistake.
I think we have enough to like advice from people from Europe.
Yes. Because if you try to follow United Nations,
No, see,
European
the problem
Union,
is
things like
Shadow,
that,
you're looking
never
at
a good
it.
idea.
You're looking at it from European history. You got to understand, African history is very different from European history. Why? You guys don't freaking like each other, anyways. I don't even know how
Yeah.
you keep the EU together. Like, you guys murdered each other for centuries.
Okay,
The
So-
so you
jobs,
are telling
so
me
the
yeah,
jobs
so-
in
so-
England,
so-
the jobs in England, the jobs in England, they're all about.
Wait. What
so
Shadowi
Makiadi,
said?
there is
Wait.
no border problem in this country, in the
What-
African country.
Let me, because the
that
pushback
again.
you got, Shadowi, regarding transnational, I don't think is actually warranted, because the thing to note here is, and this applies for pretty much every country here in the world, and this it's called the investor-state dispute action or something like that. Essentially, it gives global investors the right to sue the state for not allowing them to conduct their business as they want to. And there are a multitude of examples of this, where there's a state, for example, in South Africa, there was an Italian corporation, this is no longer the US or something massive. We're just talking about a corporation that is strong enough to be influencing a country. And they have the legal backing, a transnational backing, the international law, as we call it, that gives them the right to bring the state itself to court, which will have a whole lot of expenses in and of by itself, whether they win or not. But so for the South Africans, when they try to get more of their citizens working for with the Italian company, the Italian company is just like, okay, we're going to sue you for infringing on our company practices. And the South African, in some cases there will be a brawl out of this, but in South Africa's case, they're just like, okay, well, we're just going to let it go, because we know this is going to cost money, so we don't want to touch that. So this is why Shadowi said, like, when you see something transnational, and I would go as far as say it applies for most countries. It's not just African countries. Like, and it's usually not a good thing. You have to be very careful.
Shadow, explain what you mean it's a bad idea. Explain what you mean it's a bad idea.
I think the first priority for not most of the country, because I think a lot of countries have already solved that. But in the sub-Saharan area, the main priority for me, for each country, would be internal security. To make sure that there is no rebel in the country, there is no brigands, there is no jihadist and criminal gang and things like that, Because we are speaking about Nigeria 2 weeks ago, and I think it was Emmanuel who was speaking to us. He was from Nigeria. And he was telling us that in the northwest of Nigeria, you have a lot of large criminal gang activity, and they even were able to shoot down military helicopter. Imagine the strength of this guy. And in the northeast of the country, they had jihadists. So first, for Nigeria, the main question would be to control their own country.
Well,
Okay.
Here's the thing. So, by the way, to answer your question, to put a pushback on that, so they can do two things at the same time, right? They can pursue regional unity, and they can fight crime at the same time. Secondly, I'll give you an example of Kenya. So Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, they all cooperate now in terms of they share the same database, criminals and whatnot. It's through them and the East African community basically breaking all these barriers that they have in between them that has helped them now. So now if you're from Kenya, you can't break the law and run out to Tanzania. Tanzania will get you and take you back to Kenya. So even that unity itself, it helps with basically fighting crime. Like if you have bandits fighting, and most bandits will be like on the border areas. So if you have bandits fighting in Kenya and they can run away to Uganda and you can't pursue them past Kenya, then that's a problem. So
yes, but for that, you don't need a transnationalization. You just need an agreement between countries.
But you have to agree that actually that's actually very effective. If you actually if you actually have if you have the same passport system, if you have the same cooperation between them, the other part of it too. One of the reasons why these countries need to get together.
And just for the military to communicate between themselves.
Yeah, copy.
Yeah.
That's an increase in the security in the area.
Okay. So Shadowi, what I was trying to say is, right? Let's say if I'm an African leader, like let's say if I unite all Africa, right? This is just a dream. If I do that, definitely Africa they have enough power to send any terrorists in Africa. Just like even if some of this country have like a national guard or whatever it is, you add this together and you give most of these people an option to get to be back in society, and they don't do it. You send like close to 500,000 soldiers in one area. Definitely they will clear everything on that area in 6 years. You understand? But
do you understand what it means, 500,000 soldiers in terms of logistics?
Say it again? I couldn't hear you.
Do you understand what it means, 500,000 soldiers in terms of logistics?
I don't think. Well,
I think we lost him.
Yeah, but I understand what he's saying. But here's the other thing, and actually one of the main points about it all is that unlike many countries where their borders were drawn on ethnic lines, Africa is not like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ethnicities are cut by the borders.
Yes.
I gave an example of Kenya where the vice president of Uganda and the foreign minister of Kenya were brothers, like from the same mother. So these countries are cut off like that. So these borders don't even make any sense, that your chicken can cross into the other country, but you need a visa to cross. Doesn't make sense, So already, and two, and most importantly, it's a very popular idea among very many Africans, which actually surprised me. Probably Nigerians don't want that, but most of the African countries, they don't have a problem with it at all.
They're going up.
Yes, but
Okay, Makiadi, what do you say? They want what exactly? Like an ethnic, because it sounds to me like an ethnic confederacy or something could maybe be what was said.
No, they
a free circulation and a free trade agreement.
Free trade, the whole idea of an African passport, which is something they have been talking about for a while now.
Yeah, it's overdue.
Yeah,
what we don't want is
so
an administration and the bureaucracy that go above the country. That's a big mistake.
Say that again.
You don't want an administration or bureaucracy above the country. That's a big mistake.
Oh, like the EU.
Exactly, like the EU, yes. But if you have agreement and every country accepts the free trade and the free circulation, why not? It's a good idea. And if all the military decide to have some communication channel to fight the cross-border criminal organization, that's a good idea too.
I think
don't try to create a new administration or things like that. That's a disaster.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. I agree with Shadowi on that one. I think the better way to go about it, at least for starters, would be a multitude of bilateral relations that address common issues, and maybe trilateral relations and so forth. And then you have the agreements are on a specific thing between the countries, and that's a thing. They don't have authority over each other. They have a shared agreement, but they don't have this administrative structure that supersedes in any capacity. So when you're talking to passports, for example, and so forth, like ECOWAS has something like that makes it very easy for people in the ECOWAS to travel in between. But what the Shadowi is kind of suggesting is something similar, except you don't have the superseding administrative structure. You just have an agreement between countries bilaterally that our citizens can go to your country visa free, and that's pretty much
So
it.
copying, I think that's the wrong way to go, to be honest with you. If Africa need to unite, they have to go full in. It's not halfway. Because you have to understand, the African Union started because of they wanted to go halfway. They wanted to start that same program as you're saying. You understand? They couldn't already, because Sekou Touré and many other leaders wanted to have Africa as united as one nation already. But they decided, you know what, it's gonna make it too complicated, all that stuff. They said let's have the African Union, let's do this slowly but slowly.
Alpha,
Since
I
when many of these
appreciate.
countries already had the independence?
Wait,
Some of them already had the independence
please, wait. I really appreciate the premise that you have put forth here, and now I would like you to take the time to kind of give us example, like how, because that's, to me it sounds like an extremely tall order. You're gonna get all these state leaders to unanimously agree to unite their countries, which is a massive undertaking in and of by itself.
And for
So,
some countries, it's not even possible. You cannot make the Morocco and the Algeria in the same room without a fight.
Or Morocco by itself having the Sahrawi, or Libya for that matter. So Alpha, can you please explain to me, like, how do you see this, the United Africa? And I'll just please tell us.
Okay, so basically the way I see it, right, when now as all these coups happening, this is the right opportunity, I feel. Because if they start as a federation, right, many of these countries right now, look, they already had a contract between Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, right, to have a military team. If they started from there, right, and pretty much so many of the other countries will see something that is that really beneficial. So basically something that benefits all of them, and they will start like as a nation, as a state, like as America here. America, as you understand, America was not a one country in the beginning. It was multiple different states.
But neither is Northern America as a whole, nor South America, and so like what you're saying there, because it will still be iterative in that you will have to make an iterative process, right? And so you cannot just go straight for one Africa. And even if you tried, you will have to make these regional blocks also. And you see, like, if no places, no continent that I know of, Europe was the closest for a while. And even there, you would not really see like this merging into a one. So you see with Africa having all the challenges that it have, internal and external, internal strides with external influence in such a regard that it has, and many other internal strides in addition that we have conversed on. Like, yeah, maybe you can see the federation, because I see your argument there in some sense. Like, if I'm going to steelman it, it's that let's say the Sahelians, they managed to with Guinea and maybe even with Chad even, and they actually went full in on federation, and they actually did that, and they somehow pulled it off, which to me I think is a really tall order by itself, which I don't think we need to kind of have a little bit closer look on. But that aside, like, just even though you have that, and yes, indeed, I will agree, it sets precedence. It's a very, very far cry from the whole continent uniting, and what I think is much more realistic is that the regions, because the regions themselves, they also are very distinct from another, east to west, north to south, and in between. So like the I would say that redrawing or bordering, that seems like the most likely one. But one Africa continent united, it seems unimaginable to me.
So the reason why I said the whole Africa need to unite, because if they end up being two, like let's say they end up being two nations in Africa, definitely they're gonna be a war. Trust me, because Western country gonna use one against the other. So that's why it's always better to have to figure out. I'm just being honest because look right now, small countries itself, they're using one another against each other, and they're using each other in culture-wise, to even within the people. But if they have to really fully successful without having to deal with any crap from any other countries and able to stand in internationals, in international relations, they have to really fully come. Everybody have to give up something to gain something. To be honest with you, if they end up being two nations, they're going to be the wars.
To be honest with you, Alpha, this is something I run through my head over and over, and I have like a million scenarios of how it's supposed to work. But the closest thing I get to something successful, especially for sub-Saharan Africa, I think the guys up at the north think they're white. There's a high possibility they think they're white. But like what we have, so the East African Parliament, right? It's not that politically strong, but every decision, they seem to be coming up. So they seem to be making decisions very smoothly without any problems, which is quite interesting. Like they'll decide, okay, we're going to send our forces to Congo. And literally, you don't hear like weeks and weeks and weeks of conversations, right? Like, so, and their delegates are basically assigned from each country, and then they go there to represent the interests of the three countries. But I think at the end of the day, first of all, the idea of one leader is open to a lot of problems in future. Because at the end of the day, it ends up being another huge popularity contest. This time, the African freaking version of the whole continent kind of contest. So one popular guy stands up, another popular guy stands up. Holy cow, how does that even work? And then somebody else claims,
I could already told you.
It has been rigged.
Once I tell you, it has been rigged, the guy who is going to be supported by the most of the Western company.
But here's the thing also. And secondly, I think that's too much power for one person. I don't think an individual should have that much power over such an ethnically diverse country, so continent. But what I think that can work is a council, because that's how most of our tribes ran. Like it's something African people, African tribes, and other ethnicities are already used to, is having a council of elders dictate the states but it is a small group. But again, having that various delegates who seem to agree, I think that it's actually the most effective.
Yes,
it's just like,
Makiadi, you know what's the problem? You know what's the problem? Tribes, they don't have tanks. That's the problem. If you see, like in Libya at the moment, there's like 3 groups. All of them heavily armed. All of them fighting each other.
Well, when I give the tribal, it's just to show like the internal running of one tribe.
I know how the tribes works. You know, there is a tribe. There is a tribe in Angola. The same tribe in Namibia. You know, these people there is no border for them. They go wherever the fuck they want as long as inside the tribe. If it's in Angola or Namibia, no one tells them what to do. Doesn't matter if it's Angola or Namibia. They don't tell them anything.
So Voz, answering to what Makiadi was saying, and I just want to have a clarification if I understood it correctly. So when you're saying that they have a tribal council, and this is kind of what used to be, but it is also to some extent, I get the impression still is, at least in Ghana, like you have to, for example, go through the chief if you want to have anything to do with the land, and then there are several other stuff going on. And so if I have to understand what you're saying, like if you were to see a united Africa work in any meaningful sense, it would be not actually they all unite as a sovereign nation or anything like that, but they have a council where they can kind of have certain representative on a certain scope, maybe, or like basically they have some sort of unifying, overarching something, but they, like a forum, basically, like a place they can come together, like the African Union, but maybe a little bit more serious, I guess. And applying more of the African way of doing things, if for lack of better words. Was that
I was thinking of the way I look at it is a very modern structure, but kind of it's familiar. So somebody was mentioning a chief. Most tribes in Kenya did have chiefs. They didn't have one single person. It used to be some people based on experience ended up being on top of it. But the example I'm thinking about is theoretically how the Chinese Communist Party was supposed to operate, right? So you don't have an overwhelming individual like Chairman Mao, but it was based like, let's say the Politburo is voted in from the Central Committee. The Central Committee is voted in from a body lower than it, right? And the lower in the bodies you go, the more members it has, so that eventually you end up with a group of people who are not supposed to be from one ethnic group or one traditional region that basically end up at the very top. And the people at the very bottom of that group would be voted in by the people. Does that make sense?
Yes, if I can word it differently, it's sort of like a multi-tiered parliamentary system.
Yes,
that's increasingly decentralized, and because of by necessity and very nature of it essentially makes it's sort of like a direct democracy. Like you can take it almost down to the direct democracy level, except you have it within smaller units that can, it can go down to the communal level, and so the villages have their own representative to that region, and that region vote in their representative. And this is no longer democratic in the sense that we Westerners are accustomed to it. Where
you guys forgetting one thing. You guys forgetting one thing.
What?
Language.
We speak Swahili or we speak English. I don't care what language they speak. We can speak English.
Yeah, but speak Swahili. How the fuck am I gonna learn Swahili at my age?
No, then we'll speak English. But here's the thing also. There's technology that translates all these for you.
Let me make it easy for you, Voz. What you're assuming here, because you're going under the presupposition that one needs to have an official language. I'll give you an example of a country that does not have an official language: the United States. You don't need an official language, and they have plenty.
Yeah, now I'm gonna tell you the best thing about Africa. You know how many United States and China go into Africa. You know how big we're talking about. This is a big. Do you know how many tribes we're talking about?
1,800. But and also about 1,800 languages as well. But here's the thing: even if so, you can be very diverse, but you can still agree on some issues.
Yeah,
and the structure that I was describing, it doesn't require people to really get along. It just requires people to understand like what their interests are and whether they are well represented. The person at the very bottom doesn't really care if the guy in their tribe is the one at the very top of African politics. They really don't. As long as things are going smoothly and there's no insecurity and there's no food shortage, they don't care who is at the very top.
I know that. And you think United States just gonna sit in the corner, watch all that happen?
Exactly.
Well, that's another topic. That's something else.
That's what I was saying.
Now that's separate. That's separate.
Basically, what I was trying to say, like just to defend myself, If Africa going to unite, there shouldn't be a halfway. If we be a halfway, trust me, they will use it a way to against the other one. So if it's about population-wise, look, India have almost the same population as Africa. China have the same population as Africa. If that's the point, you understand? We may have more land-wise than India and China, but they almost have the same population. Is it possible? It's just, it may not be easy, but it's definitely possible. That's what I have to say.
You know, too many countries, yeah, too many. Let's just make. Okay, go on, Shadowi.
So the problem with your idea is that for the Western corporation and for the Western government, to have a united Africa is going to be a good news. Because
Shadowi, before you finish, Shadowi, hold on. Before Shadowi finish his point, when I always come with the corporation. You know, we Africans can get rid of this fucking corporation in the morning if we want to. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how many mercenaries you're gonna bring. If we say tomorrow, pick up your fucking things and leave, you will leave.
So I am picking up one thing both you and Alpha, you Voz and the Alpha are kind of you're because one thing I'm struggling to, because I get what you guys are saying, but the way you guys are approaching it, in my perception, I don't mean this to be rude by any means, but it's sort of like a video game where you press a button and boom, it's united, and it press a button, boom, the corporations are kicked out. And there are so many iterations on the way and so many complications and that are just without American influence, without the French and anything. It's just like internally so many iterations. So like yeah, I get it. It makes sense. You have to be rapidly going in for, if you do that, then who the fuck is going to be challenging you? Africa is going to be having the world by the balls. But that is also very, very much a nice fantasy. Honestly, that's all I can see. It's a video game. At the end of the game, when you've completed it, you have finally managed to unite Africa. But that's in the game, not in the real world.
I understand what you're saying. So
I agree with coping. But there's one thing, you know.
If you have Africa as a unity government, immediately everybody is going to try to corrupt him. If the government has not a very strong internal security, and I mean security, I don't speak about physical security because that's most easier than everything else. If you are not strong enough against corruption, against lobbying, against any kind of influence, you are fucked up.
Shadow, you're still making the same mistake. Those are separate issues. Corruption will always be there. You can deal with it while you're doing everything else. You can do multiple things at the same time. But the one part I agree with you, though, is obviously how complicated of an undertaking it is. I mean, it's a very complicated undertaking. But it being impossible, I don't think so. Because about 20 years ago, I would never have dreamt that Africans would be sharing that idea at the same time. At the time, I was one of the few people telling my friends about it. Come on. Now it's all over. It's all over the internet. People are just keep saying it over. The rhetoric itself is very encouraging that people are actually, talking about it.
Again, you see, you look at Russia. It's a nuclear power. Actually, they have more nukes together than the world. Guess what the West trying to do? They trying to divide this country.
Yeah.
This is why I don't think the United States just gonna sit in the corner and watch. Okay, Libya and Algeria is in one country, and Mali joined them. Oh, Kenya is back. United. Okay, go on.
Can I just say something quick? Because the reason why I'm saying this, right? I met a lot of young people from Nigeria, from all of Africa, that from the UN. All of them talking about one Africa. I'm telling you, I'm serious about it. Many of these people, you have to understand, they're gonna be the next leaders for the countries. You understand? They may not gonna do it right away, but they may want to hold power. But if they see that all the young people nowadays thinking about that same thing, it's just gonna keep growing. You understand?
If
So
I
if the
have
Ukraine
to,
war, if the Ukraine war lasts for as long as
as an African, if I have to vote for the leader, Julius Malema,
so Alpha, what
has
you're saying basically,
my
Alpha,
vote straight away.
yeah, but you're not South African. Alpha, what you're basically saying is that if the Ukraine war lasts for as long as Afghanistan, then there are going to be so many African leaders who can still go around and coup and do the federation thing without the Americans being able to do stuff because they're so embroiled in Ukraine. So it's basically like, go Ukraine. If you cheer on Ukraine to keep this going for as long as possible, you might actually liberate Africa.
Even if the US doesn't want to do it, even if the US is against it and whatever, we have seen in the past solutions to some of these problems. For example, what did the Cubans do? You have a revolutionary council that basically makes sure you beat off the enemy whenever he's anywhere close. In other words, you have to be like super vigilant. And you have to always, if you're creating a new country, like let's say right now, you discovered new land and you want to create your new country. That is the first thing you have to do. You have to think about what the enemy will do. And the enemy is almost anybody. So you have to be vigilant about that. But on the other hand, there's something also very important to realize. These nations, however powerful they are, especially like the United States, UK, and Europe and them, they are now very limited when it comes to the use of force. So they may try underhanded measures, but they have a big problem deploying the military. In South America, the US wanted to basically go into Venezuela using Colombia. What did Russia do? Russia went and gave Venezuela S-300. And then the whole thing just died down, right? So, but they can't, it's very difficult for them to get into an African country right now and do anything kinetically because people are connected with social media. You'll be hated, and the whole African continent will hate you for the next 100 years.
Yeah,
I agree with you. My solution is making sure all these corporations in Africa get kicked out before we start doing this.
I want to address the military aspect that you said, Makiadi, because that is to a large extent true. I'm not going to disagree on that. It is also not necessary for them to actually directly intervene. And I can use Cuba and many other countries, Venezuela, like you mentioned, as a good example.
And that's actually what I said, yeah.
Yeah, because what they need to, the only thing they really need to do is the threat of force and the clear willingness to do it at the first opportunity.
Here's the problem. The effect, but coping, the effect is still the same if you do that too. You're still going to be hated, and they do not want to be censured by a whole continent.
Right, but then you're not doing because here you can do a lot of word of place and propaganda to kind of diffuse the repercussions of that. You are not having any of your own citizens dying, for example, because you're actually not involved in a war. However, this country like Venezuela and other countries that are new countries like Cuba and so forth, they are economically in very tough situation already. So if they have to divert resources to make sure that they're sufficiently militarized, that is going to be having a lot of problems on their social projects, which is going to cause more internal dispute, which is precisely what the US have been doing. Wherever they cannot go right in and defeat them, they just maintain the pressure for that reason. So I'm not saying that it's undefeatable, but I'm just pointing out that that's a
well, here's the difference now. Here's the difference now. When Cuba and Venezuela went through, so first of all, Cuba and Venezuela are too far away from any other country. They're too close to America, right? Secondly, then it was a problem. Now things are different because of this war in Ukraine. There's another different way of looking at things now, in terms of now the US is trying to play nice. Instead to play nice with a lot of countries, because now they know there's another option, and the whole multipolarity way of thinking is becoming more and more popular. So now you have a better chance. And the farther away you are from the West, the better off you are.
Well,
because the closer you are, the easier it is for them to interfere.
And everything you said there, I agree with, except for the last part, because you said you're far away from the United States, and that certainly helps, no doubt about
It
that.
helps.
But you are close to Europe, and that does not help, right? If you are close to Europe, that also doesn't help you, because Europe had vested interest in Africa in particular. Europe and Africa is like, in that sense, that is the same problem. And yes, like you said, like, yeah, they cannot go in that way, but what will be then the resort that the French or any of the others will doing is what they're already suspected of doing, namely arming the jihadis and so forth. And like we have already covered with the Tuareg, they don't have to be actually allies with them. They just have to have weapons, and you get weapons.
If the jihadis have AK-47s and RPGs and technical pickup trucks, what can they do against a multinational army of African nations?
Exactly. You get my point.
Makiadi, I understand why you say. Hold on, copying.
Let me ask you, because he assumed that they were only using AK-47 and so forth. That's simply not true, because
they're not going to have jets. They're not going to have jets. They don't have air power.
Early in the Ukraine war, you guys know that there were a lot of weapons that they couldn't account for, and there were advanced weaponaries as well. Not hyper advanced, but many of them were advanced. Guess where much of them they picked up much of it in Nigeria, also northern Nigeria. So if they actually went in for arming the Tuareg because okay, now we cannot do anything more than if we want to keep destabilizing, keeping the pressure on these countries so they are forced to militarize and they're forced to contend with internal issues. Well, they could just simply dump more and more escalating advanced weapons and say like, oh no, well this must be something going elsewhere, right? Maybe our allies. They'll let Ukraine take the beating for it. Keep the war going and let Ukraine take the blame.
The best example was M26 rebels. The moment Congo discussed with the neighbors, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, those guys now have shut up. They're almost done now. They're getting mopped out very slowly, because whoever is supporting them, first of all, does not want to piss off many nations at the same time. And that's Rwanda. Rwanda was like, I don't think that we want to piss off the whole East Africa on this. So now the violence in Congo is dying down because of the unity of those countries.
One thing I'd like to add on that, they don't have a unlimited population. You have to understand that. It doesn't matter how many times you can give people money or you can give people weapons to fight somebody. They don't have a limited population to fight. You can give them billions of weapons. If they can have each man to mine that weapon, you bring 10,000, you bring like 500,000 soldiers to go against that area. I guarantee you can take that out right away. But the Africa need to unite first.
Let me address what you said, because you put up something really important when it comes to Africa united, because the implication, the logical implication I am drawing from what you guys are saying, especially what you are saying here, Alpha, is that the African unification would necessarily require basically, don't call it that, but it is in practice a limited genocide of the Tuareg population, because they will have to fight until they cannot fight anymore, wiping most of their population out, their whole generations out, just like we're seeing in Ukraine in a sense, right? So because
you give them, you first look, like coping, I understand. You give them first an opportunity, a way out. You can come, you can be part of the government, everything else, and sit with them for one year or 6 months, something like that. If they don't do it, you have the hammer to hit the nail. You get what I mean? That's what I'm saying. But if you don't have the hammer to hit the nail, you only have what, like your hand, and they're trying to hit the nail. You're gonna hurt yourself. You understand? That's what right now happening right now.
I get you. I wasn't making a moral judgment or anything like that. I was just saying that from my understanding of this, the implication would be that because the Tuareg situation is that they would not be they're so difficult for them to actually stop what they're doing, even if they wanted to, in a sense, right? Because we were discussed how they're split, their economy is tied into in a way that cannot be included. And so what is the option that they are provided if they are like, yeah, you can join us or you can get the hammer?
I think what Alpha is saying is that the Tuareg problem may have a military solution, because if you're not afraid of a military or violence, then you're always going to choose the violent option. Exactly. So if they're not afraid of the military, of whoever is going to be opposing them, then they will not seek any other solution to the issue. Look, the thing about any government or let's not sugarcoat it. The thing about any government or any institution of the size of a nation is their monopoly over violence. They're the ones with the police and they're the ones with the military.
You remember what Alpha was saying, right?
Makiadi.
You have a multinational country. That's what Alpha was saying, right? But where do they get the weapons from? And who is the biggest arms manufacturer in the world? This is why I say that, maybe they can run out of people. But the implication is that they might even fight to run out of people because the Americans alone can supply them way more than all of the African countries combined. They don't manufacture nearly as much as the United States.
You have to remember also, China has given us a formula of how to deal with some of these things as well. You don't have to bomb people. You can basically get on them, educate their children, teach them new skills other than herding cattle and the drug sales. So there are other solutions.
Makiadi,
Okay.
you mentioned one thing. You mentioned one thing is very important about jihad. They have AK-47. That's it. But you know what mentality these people have? As long they're gonna kill 10 of us, but as long we kill one of them, we are happy. And this ideology is in Ukraine.
But you see,
an American senator went to Ukraine and he said, and the Russians are dying.
Yeah.
It's the best money I ever spent. He said that. He knows. It's like 10-1 in Ukraine. For every Russian who dies, 10 Ukrainians die. But, he doesn't give a fuck about the 10 Ukrainians as long one Russia
the thing
dies.
about those kind of highly motivated ideological fighters, like whether it's jihadists or whether it's Nazis, the thing about them is it's only the guy holding the gun who believes that crap, right?
Yeah.
The person who is above him, they don't believe in most of that stuff.
Oh,
come
on.
They don't. Not to a certain level. Like you think who basically funds Wahhabists? It's Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia government doesn't believe most of the stuff.
Don't forget about Qatar.
But there is one thing.
They don't believe most of that.
Yeah, but there is one thing. There is one thing.
Believes the stuff.
What?
Go on, Shadowi.
I'm pretty sure that Macron himself believes everything.
No, he doesn't believe it.
Oh,
He's the one who come up with bullshit like this. Macron is one of these people who come up with bullshit like this. But there is one thing, never ever forget. The West has the best arm ever. The media.
Mm-hmm. Propaganda.
They have the media. They said that, the Russia propaganda. The kind of propaganda I've seen on BBC, CNN, I was, what the fuck? How are we supposed to believe this bullshit? And when you go out, everyone, did you see? Yeah.
Do you know how good their media is?
Someone knocked a Russian drone with a can of pineapple, whatever was inside that fucking can. You see, people believe this bullshit.
Yeah, so just to continue what you said, I remember when Gaddafi came to Guinea, right? Before I came to America, he was making a tour to United Africa. I remember that because I saw him. When he came to Guinea, right, I never seen any people ever standing for any leader for that at that time. I'm being honest with you. But when I came here, I was going to high school. I heard that the Gaddafi was the American trying to kill him. In my mind, I was questioning why. They say it's because he's funding terrorists and all that stuff. You understand? I was kind of confused as somebody in Africa at the time, looking at Gaddafi as somebody who trying to unite Africa. And the most people that I see that time that came out to support him, and to, at that time when he came to Guinea, I never ever, even nowadays, I haven't seen any leader that much population. I've seen Biden many times and Obama many times coming to the UN. I never seen that much people ever.
Yeah,
one Africa It's a dream, like Martin Luther King said. He had a dream.
Yeah,
Didn't end up well for him. But one thing for sure, I would love to see that.
Well,
It's not going to
here's the
happen.
question, though.
It's not going to happen, but I would love to see that.
Here's the question, and I'm going to answer it myself, actually. The question is, would this happen organically without a lot of effort? Eventually, given a long enough timeline, would it actually happen on its own organically? I actually believe it would. I actually believe it would. I literally believe it. First of all, because of technology. First of all, I think that the rest of the world, if you give the rest of the world 500 years, I think literally the world will become way more united than it is right now. A lot of things will stop making sense. A lot of new information will come out. There'll be technology like you've never seen before. So I think organically it would end up in Africa quicker than anywhere else. Because first of all, look at it, like we're supposed to be divided naturally. Let's say the Europeans didn't come over, right? I don't think we would actually be technically one country that did come over, but would end up being in different huge regions around the main groups. Like I'm a Bantu, right? So I would more or less be in a group which has majority Bantu. And so you may have been divided in such kind of natural regions, but eventually those groups would probably either not like each other for a while, but eventually it would not make sense why they're divided either, just because of interaction. Unless another force comes in that creates fake animosity between those groups, those people would naturally intermarry, and those divisions would dissolve anyway. So I believe naturally it would end up there without any effort anyways. But it will take a long time.
You have to understand that. You have to understand that basically in the Mali Empire, right? In the Mali Empire, it used to be part of, like Guinea used to be part of it. Some part of Guinea used to be part of it. Some part of Senegal used to be part of it. Mali, or some part of Burkina Faso used to be part of it. So even after that was breaking down, there was a Fulani Empire, but a lot of people don't know that. There's a Fulani Empire after that. That's why the Fulani people and the Maniki people don't get along after that. They used to be from Senegal all the way to Mali and down to Guinea, and then some part of Nigeria. That's why there's a lot of Fulani people in Nigeria. There used to be like one empire after that.
We had one as well. Part of the, wait. Let me try to summarize a little bit what we have been discussing regarding this United Africa, because first and foremost, a centralized government, all of Africa, that's like not an issue. That's a pipe dream. Forget about it, really. I mean, I'm sorry, Alpha. I'm sorry, Alpha, but you have to. That's a spectacular thing to go for. That requires some spectacular deliberations that I don't think we have time for. That it's too late for that. But what we have come to is that if we're going to have anything that pertains to United Africa, it is. You're going to have this council thing, and you might be decentralizing this, and you will still have maybe ethnic countries, whatever you're restructuring, but you will still have the problem with external influence. And like Voz pointed out, and we have all pointed out many of the external influences that go into it. But like Makiadi, and I thought that was one thing that we have often touched on, and it was Shadowi put a very good example of just social restructuring that can pertain to that. Which is the Chinese way, one thing, how do you do it with what did Alpha say here when it came to the Tuareg? Because yes, if you just look at it militarily with no other, you just have the stick versus the stick. I think the logical implication is a partial genocide of the Tuareg people, because they will not see another option, another choice. The only thing they will see then is subjugation that is worse than death. So, but if you take the Chinese approach, when you have a carrot and a stick, is what you guys basically came to here. Mm-hmm. You have the carrot and the stick, and then if you have, and you may have even the Westerners of some sort, or whoever really come and try to influence otherwise and try to destabilize in order to preserve their own interests. And then you would basically just up the game. Is that how I get it? And because that's how you would, I see you would counter it. Like, let's say they escalate with more weapon delivery to extremists, right? Well, okay, you still have to you have to arm yourself to be able to deal that. That's going to be costly. But then you need to be having a more tempting carrot as well, maybe, because as you industrialize in particular, like, because on the very bottom, maybe this may not be this may be a low-hanging fruit. This may not be, it's a couple of solar panels, like Shadowi mentioned, right? But when you start, they get accustomed to that, and you're going to keep like, yeah, but we are still improving, we're still progressing. Look, one day this thing that you're seeing from these developed countries, it's going to be our country, right? And then that's going to be more and more costly. So, like, isn't that kind of the natural, the dynamic that we would, and so what you said then, Makiadi, if I understood you, is, you disagree with me if you want, you may. But this would kind of iteratively be where at some point, maybe it's not even a united Africa, it may indeed be a united world, because there are so many relations that kind of start going by. It's so blurry that it's only just people. Like, how did you kind of see? Because I didn't get that.
That was so I was talking about like a long enough timeline, right? Like, let's say if we had 700 years, how do you think that would progress? Because if you tell me in 700 years we'll still have Uganda and Kenya, that is insane. Doesn't even make any sense, right? So I was looking at a long enough timeline, whether organically Africa would end up uniting.
Okay, but let's take something we can conceive, because 700 is inconceivably long, like you just said, and I think there's like, but let's say 70 years from now. Let's try to muse that one. What is a united Africa possible, or something akin to that within 70 years?
With willpower and effort from the constituent people.
No, I want Vosh and Alpha first, and then your if conditional answer. Vosh, you shake your head and said no. Please explain why.
I don't. Africa have a big problem with.
Hey, Alpha, you have to unmute, so we can say hi. So,
yeah, Africa have a big problem with religion and.
Alpha, you have to make a sound so you get on the screen, so they can, because otherwise you will not show.
Yeah.
Okay,
Alpha, why don't you start? You said it was possible. Alpha, you said it was possible. Why don't you start, since you have such an adorable clickbaiter right there?
I think it's possible because you have to understand, like, as many young people get educated, and many young people that go to your Western countries and realize that they're not treated as equally and they're not treated well, they will see that going back to Africa, it will be a way for them to go home. When they're going home, they're not definitely going to see more. Just in the countries will be very small for them. It will be like they're looking at, okay, this is much helpful if all Africa unite. Because, and also, as you was talking about, one of the, there's a lot of people on YouTube now talking about Africa need to unite. I forget this guy who's running for government, for president in South Africa. Can you someone remind me his name again? I forget his name.
Julius Malema.
Julius Malema. If he win, I guarantee you, Africa, it's not going to be fully united, but it will be like a fuel to it, basically.
Think about it. We actually now have a Pan-African parliament. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it's a start. If that guy wins and Traore is still there, this is bad news for the West. Really bad news.
Yeah,
because everyone in the South loves that guy. Yeah, everyone in the South loves that guy. Everyone in West Africa, not everyone, but most of people in West Africa, Central Africa, they love Traore.
Yeah. So and also for Guinea, right? Doumbouya, he's a Pan-African guy. I know because he said it multiple times. And I don't think he's gonna get out from power anytime soon. But if he realizes that it's time for Africa to start uniting, I'm pretty much sure he will willing to get up for that. But right now, I don't think he's gonna get up anymore because I don't think he's gonna. He already said he doesn't like Western way of democracy. So that means basically he's gonna sit for a very long time. That's what Guinea decided to do.
And by that, do you know the countries that would be so glad about that? Actually landlocked countries. would love that because they
Yeah.
pay a lot to be landlocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Uganda depends on the Kenyan port, and I've always argued that we should not be charging them anything extra to get their stuff. That's like, why are you punishing them because the British decided they're going to be in the middle of the continent?
No,
No,
but I
definitely.
think that pertains what you said there, Makiadi. That pertains a lot more to the underlying market-based system that we're going by, because everything is commodified, right? So this is unavoidable everywhere, and I think,
Oh no,
of course, they will have
The
to make a
rich-
political decision to not, for example, like you said, we should not tax them, right? But I'm not that I
no. I
think
was
is
just giving
actually
an example. I was just giving an example saying that landlocked African countries would benefit from that. They would
well,
benefit.
but
I'm
I
not
do
saying
think.
that should be the main reason why, but they would benefit from that.
No, I wasn't disagreeing. And what I'm saying is that it's actually of things that can be done. It's one of those that I think are way more feasible, because here we're not really talking about, for example, corporations and all that kind of jazz. It's just Uganda and Kenya deciding that, you know what, we're not going to be having these fees, intertrade fees and so forth, and transit fees. You will give us some perks when it comes to your domestic market and so forth, and we'll give you access to the international market. Fair
I would
trade.
literally
I remember
open for them
something
a
too.
port in Kenya. Here you go.
I
Build your own
I
port
remember
here.
something to
Call it
before I
your own.
forget. So I also believe the reason why Africa were able to unite, because China, Russia is like really, really looking for a way to take Africa out of Western influence. If we realize that uniting Africa is one way, I guarantee he will support it. You understand? So that's the other thing too. I remember. I was wanted to say before I forget.
Yeah. The thing I don't really think is gonna work in 70 years is Africa have a big problem. Religion. Religion is the biggest problem in Africa. Like Angola, I don't even know. I
Is
grew
it?
up like Angola being a Christian country. That's the way the Portuguese came to us with the fucking Bible and telling us all about God and stuff. We're still a Christian country, but it's not Catholic anymore. It's a new God. There is a new God. Came from Brazil. There is like 3 or 4 new religions in Angola. They're from Brazil.
But they're all Christian, right?
Yeah, but I don't even know what kind of Christian is that. But it's this one you pay money and you see a miracle happen to you. You know?
Oh my! What are you talking about? You mean that's new in Angola? It's been there in Kenya forever. People have been buying miracles since before I was born.
You see, this is the thing. This is the thing in Africa. This is the thing in Africa. Religion. Religion is a big problem. If
You're
you
not talking
see
about
in the
religious differences, right? You're not talking about the differences, because I don't see that being a problem.
I think I get what Vosh is trying to say here, because I know this as well when I was
if you see the Middle East and the North Africa, they basically same religion. They hate each other. Instead of they get together and kick out Israel, some of them is on fucking Israel side. You see the problem.
Oh, those are national interests.
This is in name of God. The same thing happened
but you see that
most of the African countries. Like in Angola, we don't like the religion from Congo.
Because
but if you see this kind of religion in Angola, the Brazilian ones are the same with the one in Congo. They just speak in different language. One is in Portuguese, the other one is in French.
Well, Voz, let me put your mind into ease, because these religious issues are not. They can only be strong if problems get worse. But when things are going well, people stop being fanatical about stuff. Like look at the United States. The number of people who call themselves Christians are declining rapidly. mainly there are some other reasons, because religion has attached itself with conservatism, which is making that move a little bit faster, because the young kids don't want to hear about you being burnt in hell for eternity. It's very difficult for them to catch that. But the whole trend is following in Africa generally as well. It's very difficult. It's going to be more difficult within time for somebody to hate another because of their religion. Because there's too much information now, a lot of distractions. There is much more right now going on in terms of information than what we traditionally had. So if, like, when I grew up, we used to say, oh, that girl is a Catholic, but I'm an Anglican, so I don't know what's up with that. Now, in Kenya, nobody cares.
Oh, trust me, we Angola don't care when it starts to get together. If they are Muslim, if they are Christian, whatever the religion they are in, if it's to get together, we do. But the thing is, we still hate each other in name of God, which is wrong.
Well,
conservative people always use God.
Let me be the devil's advocate for both of you, because I think you're both right. Because I recognize what Voz is saying when it comes to religion, and I know, I know that from many other cases, but Ghana was like sticking to Africa, really glaring. Like there was a church and a mosque on every single street, but I had to travel far away to just get some regular convenience. And there were different churches, like of the Pentecost and of this and of that. And usually it wasn't like there were any open animosity, but there were clear communal distinctions that they made based on the religious, which church do you go to and how do you often go to church. And so what Voz is basically saying, because I get what you're saying, Makiadi, over the long run, but what you are saying also you have to keep in mind are ifs, they're conditional. They have to actually get to that point. And meanwhile, the issue of religion that Voz is pointing out, and there's a lot one could say about it, especially how it is kind of, it frames the mindset for Africans, for example, to look up against the West and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to it. It's going to be an impediment along the way. Like I think it's,
let me tell you,
probably right. Over time, it's going to go.
Not even over time.
But do you think within 70 years? 70 years.
Way before. I'm telling you, within 10 years. That's how fast it's going. Let me tell you something. If I go right now to my nephews and tell them don't like that person's a Catholic, they'll be like, the hell is this dude talking about? They're out of that now. That's not an issue anymore. The age of my parents, they may have that going on. But my nephews were in their 20s and late late teens. Oh my God, they will not even talk about religion. They have many other things to talk about. They will not even talk about that.
And in that, my friend, what replaced religion is still going to be dogmatic infighting. You're just going to change the labeling.
People with boobs make us fight each other. If you see the tribes in Angola, they don't give a fuck about this.
But Voz, let me tell you something that has changed too. When I was young, people rarely even intermarried between tribes in Kenya. Now, nobody gives a crap. That's how fast these societies are evolving. Nobody cares. So most of these differences are going to disappear quicker than we actually realize. Very, very quickly.
I don't know how the Catholic Church is in your country, but in mine, every fucking priest are white. All of them, you know.
You guys are going through what Kenya went through back in the day. Because did your government suppress religion or something? Because why would you guys be going through that stuff now?
This is where things get fucked up. These people control you.
This is where Makiadi.
I sound a little bit conspiracy theorist, but this is the way. Did you see the Pope? He said this world needs to carry on. He just said that about a week ago. You see, He's supposed to be a man of peace.
What?
Yeah, he did say that like last week, or I think Monday or something like that. He said this war needs to carry on. This is the kind of people. This is the kind of people.
Somebody needs to check his head.
No, coping. What were you saying?
I'll be happy too, you know. Yeah, the thing is, like I said, there is a lot of Catholic church in Angola. I mean, a lot. There is more Catholic church. Back in 19th, they had more Catholic church. I mean, a proper fucking castle than schools in Angola. And every single one of these churches, the priest was white.
Okay, I want to ask you. No, I will answer first what I wanted to ask you, Makiadi, and then I want to hand over a question when you're done. Hand it over to Alpha to answer, because I would like to hear again my impression of what I saw in Ghana, and Voz has told Angola, right? I would like to hear it from Alpha, and I will tell you, Makiadi, that what you're basically saying is that not every country is like Kenya. Not every African country is like Kenya. From my impression of it, no?
Yeah, that's actually what I'm saying, and that's what's surprising me, because Voz seems to be surprised about those people who are selling miracles, right? You should have started dealing with that in the early 90s, bro. Like you're not supposed to.
That's when they came in. That's when they came in.
And the priests being white, that used to be Kenya in the 80s and early 90s. But then too many Africans started becoming priests, and the white people could not compete with them because the Africans were doing a better job entertaining the crowd. But no, I understand that. Not all countries are the same, but I think the trajectory is similar, right? Now, I'm not talking about some chauvinism here when I say this, but Kenya socially develops very fast. They catch up to new things very, very quickly, whether it's new technology, blah, blah, blah. They run very fast. And you see Uganda following, trying to be like Kenya and whatever. But I think, and I've seen that in all these trends, I can actually see them in other African countries. I think the general trend is headed towards that direction. Like you find an African country like Tanzania, they have a lot of tribal pointing fingers. Oh, that guy's from this tribe, that's how they are, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, that's going to die out as well. So even the tribal differences and the religious differences, they all die down slowly, unless there's a conflict in the country or whatever. But naturally, the differences are going to die down slowly.
Yeah, just to add to what he's saying is because, as I always told you, like many people, Fulani people don't get along, right? But the thing is that nowadays, as young people like my own age, we see a Manike people, we see other people, we see a hi, my brother or my sister. Never go like, hi Machudo, because Machudo sometimes like if we say the N word, we joke around each other, but we don't say that anymore. We just say hi brother or hi sister or something like that. If you don't know the names, you understand? We work with one another more often than the usually than all the old parents that, because the older they get, the more problematic for them it is. The younger you get, you have no issue with that, because you travel a lot enough to see that you are not the only tribe out there. You understand? And there are other people out there that if you think you're better than them, there are other people that think they're better than you too. You understand? So the only way to solve all this is to work together, basically. So that's how I was wanted to say. The other thing I was wanted to add, oh my goodness, I forget. There was something I was wanted to say.
I wanted to ask you about we mentioned about the religious composition, like how it Makiadi pointed out the miracle for money thingy was like, how is that in Guinea, like compared to, for example, what I mentioned in Ghana, what Voz mentioned in Angola? How is it in Guinea?
So there is some people, but not much. Some people don't believe in it. Some people do, but not as much as people that believe in it. So They usually
One is
because in Guinea
Alpha.
most of the
Alpha.
population is
One is enough.
No,
what is it?
but what I wondered was like, is religiosity a very, very strong factor in the social fabric of Guinea? Like in Ghana, it's intractable. You cannot avoid it. It's a church every, like, okay, Sundays. This is, you will hear you often, if you're near a church, you will hear music and whatever in the evenings, and then you will hear the chimes of mosques in the morning. Almost anywhere you are near urban areas, and like most places I've been in Ghana at least. So Sundays are really lively, where the Christians, they really like to go on their party and they're singing and all that. And then the Muslim, of course, have their regular morning thingy. So you might experience no sleep when you enter Monday, if you live right next to both of them. So like, how is it in Guinea?
Yeah, for Guinea, usually there's mosques every corner you turn. There's less churches because there's more Muslim in Guinea than like Christians. Like the two largest group are Muslim, like the Fulani are Muslim and the Manike people are Muslim. And so people, most of them are Muslim too. So basically the laws, the minority, like the lower people, like the 10% of the people are Christian, but they do definitely go to
I believe this 10% of people are Christian. They go to a church with a white priest.
They do have white priests coming to visit. That I remember, but I don't remember.
Can I ask you then, because this becomes a little bit pertinent to what we talked about regarding, for example, jihadists and stuff like that. So, religiously speaking, then what you're saying, Guinea is kind of uniform. It's mostly it's Muslim, and it's the same kind of Muslim as well. Did I get you right?
Yes.
So
there's a little bit Wahhabi, but not as much. There's a little bit Wahhabi. Like my auntie on the side, they're Wahhabi. But most of my family is not. It's like Sunni.
So, for example,
there's a little bit Shia too, but not as much. So
when it comes to adherence, for example, to Sharia law, like to be clear, I know that Sharia law isn't jihad and all that kind of stuff, or necessarily genital mutilation. It is Sharia is just a concept of law, right? And it's a religious law, right, in a sense. But how much what I'm trying to ask, I guess, is how inclined or insistent would you say the Guinean population is when it comes to wanting that political decision based on their religious values? If that makes
so basically, for them, like the religion side doesn't make much decision for the government. There's a little bit they can come and say this is what the people want from our own religion side, but they don't control the government in Guinea. Because you have to understand that most of this government in Guinea, usually they are dictators. Sekou Touré was a dictator, Lassana Conte was a dictator, and then Alpha Conde came, he's Muslim, but he doesn't care. All these leaders are Muslim, all of them. All the current leaders that are in Guinea, they are Muslim, but So basically, they don't do no Sharia law. No Sharia law. They don't do.
So would you find it because it's, and maybe I'm just mishearing you, but I get the impression what you're saying is that it is very, very unlikely, or maybe just unlikely, that a Guinean leader would be trying to apply some form of Islamic populism. And I'm not talking jihadism or anything, but trying to kind of shape and kind of allow the country to have its laws, not necessarily democratically, but it will go in the religious direction. But because what you're saying is that all of these leaders who are religious, or maybe quite far down as well, they're not strongly religious. Like religiosity is a common thing, but it is not such a strong thing that you will have a large amount of people insisting on we don't want it just for our community, we want this for our nation, for example.
So as first of all, Guinea, they always call as independent republic. So they always go by laws. They don't go by Islamic laws. So Islamic laws that goes within the family. Like within the family usually, or the culture or the village usually go as Islamic law, and then because it's more easier for them to able to talk to each other and communicate more stuff. That's the only way. But the top, when you go to the high top, usually it's more money talk. They don't care about anything about the religious side.
Do you have a lot of pastors in Ghana? There's a noticeable amount of pastors who get a lot of money from the poor through their masses, and then they reinvest them into. These are African, these are Ghanaians, right?
This is African thing. This is African thing. Copying. This is everywhere in Africa. That's African thing. You know, there was peace in Angola in 1992. Yeah, and they're starting this peace talking in 1991 between MPLA and UNITA. Guess who else were involved in this peace talking? All the way, Catholic Church, all the way. It's like the third party, you know? Even Savimbi was like, what the fuck are these people doing here? He said, if one day I became a president of Angola, I'm going to get rid of you all. All of you is going to go. I'm tired of your bullshit. This is one of the things the West did. If you see the biography of John Savimbi, the West made his biography like he's racist. He's like anti-God and this kind of thing, you know? Because he was asking, why all these Italian people are here bringing God? That's the same way they came to us 500 years ago with the book of God. And they turned us. I said that yesterday to Copy. If you see Angolan's name, I think only 10 or 15% of people of Angola go names like Angolan name.
If I may, because let me
name,
tell the audience how
name is of Portuguese.
Yeah, people in the audience yesterday I posted a recording we had on the Ukraine. Vasha joined us in the conversation where we started talking about Africa and such like that. And I'm not going to explain the whole conversation. It was something that should have been recorded. That we have agreed upon that should have been recorded. I'm sorry we didn't. But one thing that Vosh pointed out is that, and I want you to think about this. Because what I know from, for example, Ghana, and what I also know from my own personal, because I have a immigrant background, like my mother is from Israel, and more specifically Arab from Iraq. So I have names from that, and I have a Norwegian set of names. In Ghana, they would also have that, even if it's between tribes and families and stuff like that. They would have first, last names, and they would also have nicknames and such like. But the point is that you would, while the Ghanaians would often have be it their nickname or their main name would often be an English name, they would still have some sort of tribal or day name or something like that. But what Vosh was saying was that of 5 names that he has, of 5 names, all of them, not all of them were Portuguese, not a single one, which is because that's something that, if you think about it, like you have 2 different families, yes, you get 2 different names. But if you have 2 different two families yet again, so on my Norwegian side of the family, there have been many intermarriages with the same family name, so no changes have occurred. So this is basically what to me it sounded like when Vosh said that he has 5 names in his whole name and all of them are Portuguese. That means that all the families around of the Angolans have adopted over generations. They've adopted so much of the Portuguese.
Yeah, the Portuguese start doing that. But this thing didn't work in the north and south. If you see, most of the people from UNITA, they are from south. If you see their names, you're gonna see Savimbi. That's no Portuguese name. Chivukuvuku. That's no Portuguese name. Samakuva. You see?
That's something strange you also noticed.
But if you go to the MPLA, you're gonna see João Lourenço, José Eduardo Santos, Agostinho Neto. This is all Portuguese name. You see the difference. And when Savimbi was like, is this Angola or this Portugal? There was a province. The Portuguese called that New Lisbon, you know? And Savimbi was like, what the fuck is going on? There is no fucking New Lisbon here. This is Wambo. Always be Wambo. Always gonna be Wambo. You see, there is a place, Sada Bandera. No. There is no fucking Sada Bandera here. You know, the Portuguese trying to name everything, and the south, trying to change everything. You know, they started putting their names the way they were before the Portuguese got in.
Hey,
but because of that, they call him racist.
Sorry, guys. I have to head out. But
okay. Well, why don't you make it?
Are we still recording?
Yeah, we're still recording.
Fucking hell!
Yeah,
that shit started at 7 or 7:10.
And I'm getting tired. I guess
we're going over the top, you know.
Yes, and we're gonna. So Voz, I just had one short question. Do the Northerners use nicknames when they come south to Angola? Where do they adopt Portuguese nicknames?
They know. No. These people,
okay.
This is one of the reasons they call them Congolese, not Angolan, because they kept their name, you know.
All right, so they have their own thing going on. Okay, guys. We have been going on for. Let me see what the timer says here. It says
it's half one for you, midnight for me.
Almost, shit, we have been going on for almost 4 hours. We have had it. Have you guys realized we just did it? We were going to start with a reaction, and then we're going to address the topic. And then we went out that we have had consistent. This is the reason I've kept this going is because we have more or less stayed enough on topic that I can split this up into 15 or 30, I think this Africa one needs to be a 2-parter because there's we went into facets when it comes to United Africa and so forth. So, but anyways, I don't want to be taking more time and rambling. I think I want Makiadi to be able to have his closing so he doesn't feel stressed. And yeah, please, Makiadi, the floor is yours.
Oh yes, this was definitely a very, very good conversation. But the only thing I can say is, a lot of people are thinking about doom and gloom when I think about what's going to happen in future, in the immediate future. Personally, I think things are actually going the right way they should, generally. I mean, think about it. The only major war in the world right now is the Ukrainian war. 40 years ago, half of Africa was at war. Now, we only have issues with a few jihadists here and there. So if you look at the bigger picture, we actually live in very peaceful times, other than possible nuclear war.
I wonder why we still have problem with jihad. We have a problem still.
But anyways, that's generally what I want to say. But awesome conversation, Coping. Thank you for organizing this. Voz, I'll see you a different time. Alpha, thank you.
Thank you very much, Makiadi. Yeah, Voz, wanna say some final words?
Yeah, you know, I really, like Martin Luther King said, I had a dream. Yeah, I still have a dream. Yeah, you know, I want to see one Africa. But if to turn this one Africa reality, we need to make sure we love each other. We put ourselves before anyone else. If we start in getting help from the West, who never done anything good for Africa, trust me, I would love to get the best relationship with the West, as long as they come with good intentions. Because if you come with their ideas, but with good intention instead of stealing, yes, back them to stay in Africa. But if they are there to make us dividing ourselves, I just would like them to fuck off. That's it. Like when Coping will go to Africa, if he go to Ghana looking for love, go for it. But make sure don't fuck it.
Dude.
I'm joking, Coping.
So, okay, Voz's closing was joking of me being a pedophile. I'm not sure.
No, you being a pedophile. You know, I'm saying go to Africa with good intention.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, my friend, I will. Thank you, Voz, for getting on and with all the life and joy and the vibrancy that you bring along with you. Alpha, why don't you give yourself indulge us with your closing?
Thank you so much, Copin, again for giving us the opportunity. And Voz, thank you so much for for always bringing some ideas back. Remind me a lot of stuff, for being a 15 years for being like since 2015 at the UN. There's so many things I've seen going on that I've seen a lot of leaders are not respected. To be honest with you, and all that's because of not uniting once. And I see a lot of young people nowadays want Africa to unite, because they see what the struggles are, not just here in America, but back home in Africa, as the way that they see that Africa is being treated. Even people that are born in America themselves feel like, even people from Haiti that I know, even in some European, like Africans that was like basically people that are families that are from the slavery, they all feel like Africa need to unite in order for them to be able to live a life to be as equal. Because all these things you see happening all around the world is because people don't respect black people as African, and also all the leaders basically. And I believe it's the right time to do it now, and not wait till tomorrow. We already past due deadline to get this done. Many countries already had the independence almost for 60 years now in Africa, and they're still not developed and still struggling. And we need a this is not going to be an easy road, I know for sure, but it's possible. I believe it's possible. If it's because of population-wise, just think of India, how much population they have. They have 1.something billion people. If you think of China too, China have almost the same population. And you see how big it is. Russia, it is a small population, but how big it is to be able to unite a federation. So it's possible. So that's my message to all the leaders. If you're doing it for your kids and your grandkids. It's your time probably is already over, but you have to understand that there's young people coming after you. So respect what they dream about, what they're hoping for. Thank you. And Malema, if you win, just invite me, so I will help you to unite Africa. So
Julius Malema.
If you win, let me know. I will back you, and then I have a lot of experience with talking to young people all around the world. So, and something that I can help. So I pretty much show a lot of African young leaders who willing to help. Yeah.
Okay, Coping, your closing.
And Coping, is it possible? Coping, quick question. If it's possible on the African session for you, like after you already had this on your YouTube team, like a couple of days, can you post this on my one channel thing? Is possible or no?
Or you mean if you can post the recording we have here on your channel?
They're just the African side, the one that we was talking about, United Africa. I like that part.
Yeah, you can cut half of it and make
after you already posted like a couple of days, then yeah. I want to give you your time to let people.
Well, actually, you see, the decision is actually not. It's basically if you have consent from everyone else to post them on your channel, so it will be. For me, it's okay. Voz is okay. If it's okay for Makiadi and Shadowi, then by all means go ahead. Because for Wyatt, this is the thing to note. Then is that what we should talk with Wyatt about, because he's very for the people here on DPA having their own channel and so forth. So he's I'm pretty sure he's going to be okay with it. But Wyatt always
wants people on Open Mic to have their own channel,
Mm-hmm.
Shadowi, let me ask you right now, Shadowi, if you're listening.
He's not here. So he left. So, but I will give you this recommendation. Actually, just talk to just DM Wyatt directly and about this. I will tell him that I have this whole lot of shit coming his way, that so he's not gonna like content, that's for sure. So as per the uploading, and I can just share the raw file and you just pick as you please, but you should talk to Wyatt in order to kind of because then you can kind of spin the titles in a way that is he knows how to start a YouTube channel.
Anyway, Alpha, I'm always available if you want guests in your channel.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, so, I just didn't have enough time yet to get it done, sleep down.
Yeah.
But hey, Alpha, we also need to have a thumbnail here, and you have this shirt that's going to be so. I mean, you're already a kid, so come on, just show up. There you go. Yeah, I'll still picture that one and put it in on the thumbnail. And then
I've got one. Wakanda forever.
Yeah.
Even though there's no Wakanda in Africa.
You see, Wakanda forever. If you make Africa united possible now.
Yeah.
All right. So let me see if I can wrap this up here. First, this has been such a long one, and that I for once have to give my own personal closing on it. One, my head is cooked. This went on way longer than I intended, but the conversation was so good. I kept just learning along the way more and more, and I can just keep on asking all these guys to come on here, and I can't really put much more words into it. That it's very difficult to put words into how satisfying I find the open mic channel in general, and having the people that come on. And now I can just ask these guys, do you want to come? Do you want to talk about this and that? And this time we basically open mic'd it to some extent with some focal attention. I try to, because I am the dude who intends to edit it. And here's the thing, I hope you who are watching this can appreciate, is that Wyatt has not Wash, if you can please mute yourself, background noise.
Okay.
So I was hoping you in the audience could appreciate this, that Wyatt hasn't told us to do anything here. Wyatt has allowed us to just basically do these conversations, and he uploads it on his channel, and it's usually relevant to geopolitics in a variety of ways. And as you can see, we discuss this from the bottom level, because we are the bottom level. We are just the regular people on the street, almost certainly like you watching. Unless you are one of the African leaders or one other state leader, then you should definitely heed the advices we give you. But for those of you watching, do understand that we are basically just a bunch of dudes who got together on the open mic. We have conversed, and as we got into the closed Telegram channel that is for the open mic speakers, we reach out to each other with pertaining to interests. And then we do these recordings here, and Wyatt enables it to come to you. And so in the same vein that we are just like you got on, and the difference between us and you are essentially that we are here having a conversation in the open with our faces for you. Well, that doesn't mean you're not a part of it. You can definitely leave a comment which part you think was like, hey, this is something you guys should converse on more, or go on deeper more. And you are a part of this as well. You can come with suggestions. Indeed, if you want to participate in these conversations, you should first and foremost subscribe to DPA Open Mic with the notification bell on, and make sure that you pay particular attention to this channel during the weekends when the live streams are going. For that is how all of us manage to get together, really. You show yourself there, you have a conversation, you disagreeing you can have insane opinions, and you will have pushback, no doubt about it, but you're not going to get banned or denied or any of those kind of things for that. As long as you're not trolling, as long as you're kind of standing by your convictions, and you'll take that's life, right? That's how we do things in life. So that's how we do things here on the open mic as well. We're not here to lecture you. We are not here to, I am learning in the process here. Everyone here is learning in the process. We're educating each other, hopefully educating you. And if you think that we missed something or we got something horribly wrong, we are open for criticism. We definitely are. Do not hesitate to leave a comment. So, with that outro disclaimer out of the way, I hope you do, again, I cannot stress this enough, subscribe with the notification button. Do look through the videos that you can otherwise find on DPA, and if there's something that you can share, If unshareable, you share it, please. We need to grow. And of course, we will like you a whole lot more if you press that like button than if you didn't. But regardless, we thank you all very much for watching the DPA Open Mic Talks. Just regular recording with the members. Bye-bye. That's it. Stopping now.